All right, let's try this thing again, man. I was trying to go live from my melanated father's page, and that thing wasn't going through right. Yeah, there we go. I was trying to go live from my melanated father's page and wasn't going through right. So let's get this thing popping. All right, so we're gonna interview my brother O.C. Chatman, O'Nae Chatman, award-winning author, consultant for our young kids. There we go. Okay, that's gonna have to do right there. All right, all right, there we go. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, we look much better now. All right, just wanted to make sure I get everything right for you, brother. Now, so talk to me about that again because that was extremely intriguing to me. So you said you raised by your grandma,
Yeah.
parents had you at 14,
14.
right? And so talk to me through that experience, being raised by your grandma. You said you didn't meet your pops till you were in high school, right?
Yeah. When I became a teenager, so around
Hmm.
13 or something of that nature. But man, just it was a different experience, man. Just being raised old school. Uh, I kind of got an old soul being raised by a grandmother, man, who in the church. She's a pastor, evangelist. So very tough, strict
Hmm.
upbringing. um, you know, didn't allow me to do too much partying, or never got into drugs and alcohol, all of that, man. So it was definitely for my benefit, being raised in such a household,
Mm-hmm.
such a spiritual woman, man, that guided me and kind of put me in the right direction. And so, man, I'm just very thankful, man, to her for all that she did, raising a young black man in Mississippi, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so that can't be easy, but we did it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we hear the tragic stories from when young people are raised by their grandma or their auntie or a different family member. And we understand how kids do need their parents, right? But
Yeah.
it's strong-willed people who can persevere through that situation and still end up being someone that can shed light on others because you got to be honest, brother, a lot of people don't make it through your or don't make it to what you've done to a point where you know what, say, you know what, I'm gonna help people who may be going through what I'm going through, or being young and not having that guidance to now want to guide people. I definitely commend you for that. Now, you went to a HBCU, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Went to Morehouse.
Okay. Now, something I want to ask you about that because I've always wondered this. I talked to a couple other people, but I want to get your take on it. Now, a lot of people, I think a young black person fares the best going to a HBCU. And I only say that because I'm into black history. Like I'm into our culture. I think that's kind of something that should be taught along with all the book knowledge that you may need to be successful in this world. Like, what's your honest take on HBCUs versus like PWIs?
Well, I've actually experienced both. So before I went
Hmm.
to Morehouse School of Religion, man, I started at the University of Mississippi.
Hmm.
So I went there for a year, and I can tell you, man, there's a major difference.
Hmm.
When I got to the HBCU, man, it was the nurturing. It's like it's the nurturing factor at the HBCU that makes it what it really is. When you have professors that really know you, that really get to know you and find out where you're from, and they ask you about, hey,
Hmm.
who's your grandmother when you come to class, things of that nature. So it gives it, even if you're in a big place, it gives it a small feel, right? And so it brings it in, and people really show you that they care about you, that they care about your education, that they want to see you do well at the institution and beyond. And so I think every student needs to get that, man. It's invaluable, man, to have professors that look like you. When I went to Ole Miss, I only had one professor that I can remember that looked like me.
Hmm.
You know, out of all the classes I took there, man, only one professor looked like me. And so I think I tell young people all the time, it's hard to be what you can't see. And so we have to start seeing these images and seeing people in prominent positions that look like us, and that gets our mind thinking on another level. And so, man, HBCUs are, man, just invaluable, man.
That's what I figured. And I wish when I was a teenager, and even my mom, she was trying her best to help me out, but I wish the people around me kind of shed more light on that, because I had a couple homeboys who I went to junior high school with and high school with, and they end up going to HBCUs. And when I would see them at a young guy, I didn't quite understand the differences I was seeing in them, but they felt when I would see them and talk to them, it was almost like they was connected to something. You know what I mean? They was from Sacramento. They went to HBCUs in Atlanta. And these brothers went to Atlanta in the late 90s. They ain't came back yet. You know what I
All
mean?
right.
And I think a part of that is just sometimes being in the southern states too. There's like a home feeling. There's like a more connected to our roots. And that's just something I'm here in California. And I think the farther you get away from the South, the farther you get kind of disconnected from a lot of those things who make us who we are. Now, you mentioned that your grandma was like a big motivation in everything you do, but seeing that you've written like 21 books, brother, give me like, what was your motivation to even start writing? Because being a college educated person, you could have just went into corporate America, got a job, and went that route. So why did you choose to write these books to motivate our young people?
Well, I really had to write them out of necessity. So in 2016, I started to I started my own educational consulting company.
Hmm.
And what I learned by going into schools is that there was no material that looked like me. There was no material by anyone that looks like me. So we didn't have writers in that space. And so I'm saying, okay, you're trying to reach African American children. You're trying to figure out these strategies of how to connect with them better, but you're not even starting with the material. The very material that you're using is whitewashed, right? And so, man, I started writing, man. I sit down, man, and I had written 9 books in 1 month.
Hmm.
1 month, I had written 9 books, and those 9 became like my foundation for my curriculum that I still use to this day. And so it was just the spirit leading me, man, to begin creating. Because I'm one of those people, man. You know, I don't see the sense in sitting back complaining, saying, "Hey, we don't have this, we don't have that." You're an educated brother. Why not write it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not gonna talk about what we don't have. We're gonna write it. We're gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna create our own material. And now, man, my books are used, man, in districts across the nation. And so, you know, that's the greatest feeling in the world, to know that young people are actually using your material, man, to learn, to grow, and to graduate, man. And so I think that's powerful. And so I encourage people, man, to start writing, man. You know, you have a gift to write. Create 20-page workbooks. That's all it takes. A 20-page workbook with valuable information on how a young person can live life better, how they can make better decisions, better choices, you know, all of those different things, man. And man, schools can use that material because they're actually looking for it, because
Definitely.
nobody is presenting it to them on that level.
Mm-hmm. Now, going into schools, and I always, because I've spoken to a few brothers who are authors, who are motivational speakers, and one of the biggest things that I appreciate is when I'll see brothers who look like me, because we need to show kids that we cool too. Just because we don't sell dope, just because we don't play basketball, just because we don't entertain you, we're not dancing, you know what I mean? Don't mean we can't be as cool or be as successful as other individuals like that, right? So when you go into schools and you see young brothers, how do they respond to you knowing that not always, but typically the authority figure or the man that's speaking to them is a man that don't look like them? So how do they respond to you when you go into the schools and you give your keynote speeches and stuff?
Well, I think I tell people all the time, with anytime you're in a speaking environment, you go in at a disadvantage. Because the audience automatically assumes that, okay, this is gonna be another guy that can't really connect with us, right? And
Mm,
so you're at a disadvantage until I open my mouth and tell them I come from the dirt of Mississippi. Nothing. No Jordans, no new pants, no new shoes. 1 to 14-year-old parents, I have them to raise their hand. I say, who's 14 in here? Some of them not even 14. I say, my parents had me at your age. Can you imagine being a parent at this point? Man, their eyes get so big. And from that point, I don't have any other, listen, I have no problem connecting with them at that point. Because they instantly see, okay, this guy's for real. You know, he comes from the struggle, right? And that's all they want to know, is that you can somehow relate to me. That your story, that is something about you and your story that kind of mirrors mine. May not be the exact same story, but there's struggle in your story. And that's it. I use that as the connecting point when I'm talking to young people.
Definitely, definitely. And you know what? That makes so much sense, because I think a part of the gap between the youth and the elders, there's just a communication style. Like speaking, man, I think in general, speaking down to anybody, you're not going to get results. You need to meet everybody where they're at. You know what I mean? And a lot of our young men go through so much at home, go through so much just in the small environment that they're consuming. And sometimes as parents, we do a bad job of communicating. We do a lot of telling them what they should do and not necessarily listening. And in school, we've all had speakers who come, and we get used to that, just like you just said. So for somebody to come and say, no, I was exactly where you were. I don't come from money. I don't come from, kids in our community can relate to that. You know what I mean? Now, looking at the titles of your books, which I'm gonna buy some of your books, brother, just for the young people in my life, because the titles are so intriguing. Now, a lot of them are geared towards making sure our young people have like a solid foundation before entering into adulthood. Talk to me about why that's so important.
Well, it's so important because I believe in, you know, building those foundational blocks for them. So like I have one called How to Become a Successful Young Man. And in that book, man, I give them all the game that I wish a father had given me, right? If a father could have sit me down and say, hey, I'm going to give you 15 things that will make you successful in life. Do this, do this, do this. And so that's kind of how I write, as if I'm that father figure saying, hey, avoid this, do this, don't do this. You know what I'm saying? And I make it relevant. So I use sports, I use hip hop, you know, I use reality TV, stuff that they're watching, stuff that they're hearing. You know, I put all of those different references in there so that they're able to fully understand where I'm coming from, man. So it's very important to build those foundational blocks, man. And then they got something to leap from, man. They got something to step up to, you know. But if you don't give them those foundational blocks and those keys, man, it's tough, man. You know, when you, like I said, it's hard to be what you can't see. And many of them, they've lost their ability to dream. And I'm thinking to myself, brother, the saddest thing I've ever seen is, you know, you're talking to an 8-year-old that's already given up on life. Man, I talked to an 8-year-old one day in inner city Atlanta, man. I was doing some mentoring. An 8-year-old tells me all he want to do is get him a gun, hang out on the block, shoot somebody, and sell drugs. Guy, he was 8. Like, at 8, bro, I was still riding Power Wheels, right? You know, I'm still, you know, I'm still playing in the dirt. That was mindset already at 8. Man, that opened my eyes, man. I said, listen, I got to spend every day of my life for the rest of my life figuring out how to reach these young men. Or as Dr. Miles Monroe says, live full, die empty. I realized when I leave this place, I wanted to be said, I gave everything I had, man, to helping these young men. And that's how I live my life every day, man.
And you know, it's so important that you say that, man, because when I look at Black people in America, 43 million, however many of us are here, I always tell people, like, in order for us to see the changes that we want, some people believe in just going to a voting booth and voting, then going back to their everyday life. Some people believe in actually getting out in the community and helping. But at the end of the day, all hands need to be on deck for us to solve this problem. That's why I salute, and I seen that from your energy. Most of the gentlemen that I interview, I can tell from their energy that not for money. They're doing this because they want to help us. If you become successful from it financially or otherwise, that's a bonus. But because we look at politics and we look at all this stuff going on in the Black community, and I think sometimes we forget that on an individual basis, we can begin to help today.
Yep.
With mentoring, starting an organization, being a part of an organization, talk to the young kids around you. There are things that you can do. And you remind me and myself of basically saying, for the rest of the time I'm here on earth, my job is to see improvements with our people, try to solve this maze that we haven't been able to get out yet. And I hold everybody accountable. I hold this system accountable. I hold parents accountable, because you're saying, you speaking to an 8-year-old boy with that type of mentality. I gotta say, where are the parents? Where is the guidance? What is he actually seeing in his house
Yeah.
that makes him think that's all that's possible? You know what I mean? So we got a lot of work to do, and we got to hold everybody accountable that's involved. That's parents too. You know what I mean?
Man, let me tell you, you brought up something that sparked something in my mind. I was thinking about how many parent involvement workshops I've done. So the principal bring me in to talk to the parents. And every principal always tells me the same thing. They say, "O'Nae, we don't have a problem getting the parents here whose students are doing well." He said, "Our challenge is getting those parents here whose students aren't doing well." And then they always follow up with this: "But they're at every basketball game. But they're at every football game. But we cannot get them to come and see what's going on the academic side," right? And so that is our challenge. We got a major challenge of just getting them to show up. You know, when the robotics team is being built, you know, why don't we see that as important? You know, why do we only see basketball and football as important? Why don't we see the robotics team and the STEM team being put together? Why don't we want our young men in that? You know, and so we have some priority issues, man.
Definitely.
You know, that have to be challenged, man, and reinforced. We need some positive reinforcement.
Definitely. And you know, several years back, I had to challenge myself because I'm an ex-athlete who has 5 sons, and I found myself early in their life treating basketball as if it had to happen, right? And what woke me up one day, OC, is my son was playing AAU basketball. We had a lot of white parents around us. I listened to the white parents talk. Now, one of these white parents, her kid is the rawest dude on the court, right? And they was like, "So was he getting letters to college or whatever?" She was like, "I don't know. I mean, we're not even thinking about basketball." She kind of giggled. "We're not even thinking about basketball for college. He out there having fun." I'm like, wait, what? Oh, so this is us who put this on our kids. So from that day forth, I said, "Look, if you want to play hard, and I'm going to put everything into it that you put into it. But right now, we're establishing something else that you may want to do with your life.
Yeah,
This isn't fair to you, and we're not going to let these damn cultural inequities affect us like this, because this is a Black thing. We have to be specific with this. Asians ain't dependent on basketball. Mexican kids ain't dependent on basketball. We do this thing in our community." So I had to step back and say, why? Like, why is this game so important to me? Like, this boy ain't smart. Like, he can't be on the math team or the debate team or any of these things, right? But I think it starts with us as parents kind of setting the trend. I tell people all the time, your household is like a small country. You make up the rules, you determine all of the legalities in this little country, and you send them off into the world to deal with everything in the world. But it starts inside of your house. Whatever the traditions are, whatever the habits are, that's going to be, that's going to start right in your house with your parents or whoever you live with. You know what I mean?
yeah, oh yeah, man. You make excellent points. But we know why it is, man, because you know it's hard to thrive when you're trying to survive. When you're just in survival mode, period. Man, basketball. Man, let me tell you something. When you come up against a team from the inner city and that's all they know, that's all they got. Man, they will bust your tail, man. And we be around guys that are spoiled, that have been baby. They get out there on that court, man. They so soft. And you playing against a dog. You playing against a young man who feels like this is his only shot at getting his mom out the hood, right? And
Yep.
so he giving it all he got. Man, he got that Derrick Rose energy before he got hurt. He
Uh-huh.
attacking the rim. You know what I'm saying? He attacking the paint. And so, but we also have to tell that young man, I'll never forget. We was at a school in Panama City, Florida, and there was a young man walks in. He had just made a 36 on his ACT. That's a perfect score. That's high as you can make. I began to look at every young man in there, and I said, why don't y'all ever go to him for advice? I said, why is he considered lame, but you cool just because you bounce a basketball? But he 36. You pass him in the hall every day, never stop to talk to the young brother. That show you, man, our mentality, right? I said, how many of y'all stop and talk to this brother? Nobody. I said, see, y'all think he's not cool, but guess what? One day you're going to walk into a company. You're going to need a job, and he's going to be sitting on the other side of that desk.
Yep.
That same young man is going to have to give you a job one day.
Yep.
And then you're going to be wondering why he did you wrong when he balled your application up because of how you treated him in high school, right? You know, because some people don't mature. Some of them still hold on to that bitterness from high school, right?
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
They may just throw your application away, throw it in the trash can, you know. And when I tell them, man, go meet that young man, go talk to him, learn something from him, see what he has going on. What is he thinking? How did he get a 36 and you got an 18? What's going on? You know, but so I'm always challenging them, man, to think deeper, man, and to go deeper, you know, and begin to raise these critical questions.
That's important, brother. And like I said, I'm critical of parents, but I'm like a group think type of individual. So to me, we're all still one. So if I'm gonna come at parents and tell them what they need to do, that has to be in a nourishing fashion as well, because I don't know their mindset. They could have had parents who weren't there. Like we 3-4 generations removed from slavery. Like we got to realize some of our great grandparents couldn't read, bro. Like they weren't even involved in this society the way normal or the way other races of people are. So that's why I'm always trying my best to be contextual with black people and not get too down on them, because I understand how they're operating. And if you haven't done your due diligence to learn about history, and really, like you said, which was a big thing, get out of the struggle, brother. I didn't start learning about history and really deciding what I wanted to do with my life until I was not struggling anymore. I had 4 kids by the age of 23 years old. So only thing I was focusing on was working and making sure these little boys were straight, but I wasn't doing nothing for myself internally or otherwise. You know what I mean? So you're right. If you're struggling, if your stomach is growling, ain't much more you can think about, including school sometimes. You know what I mean?
Right, man, I'm so glad you said that, because we went to a school district, man, and they literally have to send food home every Friday with the students because they don't eat on the weekend, bro. Like, man, I tell people, people have no idea what goes on inside of a school. They literally think kids are just going to a building and, hey, we're at school, education. Man, it's so many politics at work inside of a school building. Like, a lot of them are literally being run like prisons. When they say the school to prison pipeline, that's real. But you won't know that because the average person does not spend an extended amount of time inside of a school building. So they have no idea the politics that's going on inside of here, man. Kids not eating and having to send food home on the weekends, or they don't eat all weekend. So you expected me to get A's and B's and I'm not eating. All I'm thinking about, man, is I need a sandwich. You know, and until I get that sandwich, it's hard for me to thrive, man, because I'm in survival mode. You know, and so, man, we got a lot of work to do, brother, man. You know, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and then, you know, we'll have our kids in this environment where they can't sit still, or they have all these internal issues, and the first thing the school want to do is put them on some ADHD medicine or learning disability, or send them in that direction, when really all they need is to be focused. They need just structure. things that,
Yep.
you know, we can't put that completely on the system. Like I was saying, the parents are responsible for that as well. But I've always learned in school, for all of my kids' teachers, whenever I'm involved, the teacher is involved. If I call and I email her and I'm asking questions, she gets engaged with me and she begins sending me things home. And I think some teachers just think, okay, I got 25 students. I, I can try to be engaged with all of them, but it's really a team effort between
Yep.
the parent and the teacher. And teachers respect you more when you show up and they begin to send you information and y'all start communicating. But if you
Yep.
never communicate with them, then it's kind of your fault too. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Now,
Great.
another question I have for you, because one of your books, because, you know, I appreciate the fact that you help young men with the necessary tools that all of them need. But one of your books is called Unlocking the Genius of the Black Male Mind. Like, give me just a synopsis or your opinion, really briefly, on like the first step to getting that going.
Well, I tell people the first step is beginning to counteract negative stereotypes in the media. That is the
Hmm.
first thing I talk about. I opened the book talking about, if we're going to unlock the genius, we have to figure out ways to counteract negative stereotypes of the black male image in the media, because that is the strongest, one of the strongest forces that we come up against when dealing with the mentality of black malehood. Um, what they're seeing in the media. Man, listen, I don't even think we think about this. We are the only group of people that have our demise played on the radio 24 hours a day. 24, think about that. 24 hours a day, you can cut on any urban radio station and hear black men talking about killing other black men. No other group would allow that to happen. No Jewish home, no Mexican home, no Chinese home, only us.
Yep.
So we're starting out at a deficit, because if we're trying to pump positivity into them for 4 hours a week, but they hearing that garbage 40 hours a week, we losing, right? And I'm, of course,
Definitely.
I'm not here on no crusade against hip hop. I love hip hop, but you
Hmm.
know what I'm saying. Some of it
Hmm.
is to a detriment, right?
Yes.
Some of it is really positive and conscious. We know that, but some of it is to our detriment. And so we're starting out at a deficit, trying to overcome that to even get their minds right. That if I got a problem with you, let's do conflict resolution. Let's not instantly run to the car and grab a gun because you owe me $5, right?
Hmm.
And that's how most of this stuff starts, man. Somebody dead. Now the other young man going to prison for 40 years. You just got a 2-for-1, right?
Yep.
And, and so we have to counteract negative stereotypes of the black male image in the media. And we do that by presenting positive images. So when I say counteract, I simply mean for every negative you put up, I'm going to put up a positive. For every drug dealer you put up, I'm gonna show you somebody that's a young black scientist,
Mm.
a young black podcaster that's doing great things, a young black YouTuber that just made $1 million using his voice. I'm gonna show you a young black doctor, a lawyer, engineer, the guy up the street that started an electrician business that's doing well. And I like to bring it home. I like to show them kids their age that have started businesses that are now doing well, making $1 million. And even if they're not making $1 million, I want to show you that 13-year-old that started something positive that's now changing his community. Because now you can say, oh, he's 13 like me,
Hmm.
right? So it's
Hmm.
not somebody, I'm not showing you all the time somebody 40 or 50, because in your mind, you're going to say, oh, they should be successful. They've been here 50 years. No, what if I
Yeah.
show you
Yeah.
the 12? What if I show you the 12-year-old that's doing something positive, right? So now you don't have any excuses, because now I'm showing you somebody your age making a difference in the world. And so that's how we begin to counteract those negative stereotypes through our books, through our images, through our posters that we put on our classroom walls. It has to be a reflection of positivity daily, constantly. That's why I encourage young men to read,
Mm.
man, Read.
That's what,
No matter
okay.
what school I go into, man, I encourage them to read. Man, you would be surprised, man, the places we go. Man, 17-year-old boys reading on a second grade reading level.
Damn.
Yeah, can't read, bro. Can't read.
Damn.
And then that's another problem, because a lot of times we wonder why those parents aren't coming to school, man. Studies are now being done to show a lot of times the parents can't read. So they don't
Mm.
come. They don't come to the school because it's intimidating.
And they're
School,
embarrassed.
yeah, that school building reminds them of the fact they can't read. And so
Mm.
they're not gonna come up here because that is the place. That's a sensitive place for them, right? And so, man, we just got a myriad of issues, brother.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we operate from a deficit, for real.
Definitely, definitely. It's funny you say that, because I was reading an article that was referencing the fact that if like 7 out of 20 black prisoners or something are illiterate. I think the number was even higher than that. They linked illiteracy to the crimes that were being committed. You know what I mean? And it's good you're talking about reading. The same thing I've tried to speak to my sons about throughout the years, because I'm aware that growing up in the inner city, I remember guys that were extremely violent, and I can think back now. I think part of their violence was based on the fact that they couldn't articulate themselves, was based
Yep.
on the fact that they didn't really have the words necessary to communicate with somebody what they wanted to say. So the next best thing was to be violent with them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So reading and taking that kind of stuff serious is definitely the key. And like I was saying a little earlier, we have generations of people in our family who couldn't read. And like they always say, you want to hide stuff from a black person, put it in a book. Well, we call that funny, but I'll be honest, most of the people I know don't read. Not all, but most of the people I know, I will give them a book or a certain type of novel or something, and they don't see the quality in it. You know what I mean? And in
That's
my opinion, like even reading just a novel, I've read books that are almost better than any movie that I've seen,
oh
because
yeah,
I'm visualizing everything in my head. You know what I
oh yeah.
mean? It's a whole different experience. And I think everybody should get in tune with it, especially people in our community. Now, another one of your books mentioned like how to be a successful young teenager. So you've mentioned a lot of things so far. So, but give me a couple of your, a couple of tips on, if I have a 15-year-old or 16-year-old, what are some of the things he can do to navigate those immature years until he becomes an adult, and now he doesn't have to look back on so many mistakes. You know what I mean?
Well, the first thing I would say is to begin concentrating on academics, right? Um, because we have, no matter what room you go in, man, if it's young black males in the room, if it's 30 guys in the room, and you say, what do you guys want to do? I can almost guarantee, no matter what room I'm in, no matter what part of the country I'm doing consulting in, at least 28 gonna say NFL or NBA, right? And so then you begin to do those numbers and say, well, really only 1,200 guys make it out of
Mm-hmm.
200,000 going out trying to make it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying begin to focus on academics, make academics cool again. That's what we have to do. That's the first. I talk about that in the book. Making academics cool again, making it cool to be smart. You're not lame. You're not a square. Because you want to get good grades, man. We got to get out of that mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Mentality it has robbed so many young men of their greatness, because they won't even apply themselves, because they think that being smart equals being a square, and
Mm-hmm.
that athlete makes them automatically cool, right? And
Definitely.
and and they're not understanding that two things can be true at the same time. I can be cool and smart,
Mm-hmm.
right? I talk about staying away from drugs and alcohol, and I know that's a critical one, because you're gonna have those that say, this ain't causing no harm, this, that. But I just don't really want to push the message to 14-year-old boys to get into drugs. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's something about that just don't. I can't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe that's the old school in me. Being raised by grandma, man. But I just can't push that kind of message. So I'm saying, hey, stay away from that. As long as you can, man, and keep your mind sober. Keep your mind clean. so that you can do the things that you need to do. You know, I talk about things like staying away from the wrong crowd. I'm gonna put that in every book. You know, your circle matters. You know,
Mm-hmm.
your circle matters, man. If you're always around people, you find yourself in trouble every time you're around these people, man. You're in the wrong circle.
Mm-hmm.
Circle, man. That circle is bringing you down.
Definitely. Now, it's funny you mentioned that because my next question, because again, I was going over your book titles, and I just think for our kids, for society, even not black children, just children in general, can benefit from a lot of these topics and kind of digging deep into what you're talking about. So you have a book about bullying. So give me your opinion on that because I'm one who, like when we were kids, I don't recall there being such this societal norm of bullying. Like we didn't call it that. Everybody would get picked on, but it seems
Yep.
like now, I don't know if the kids are more sensitive, if social media, is it the phones? I'm not sure what has heightened this ideal of bullying, even like cyberbullying. Like kids are killing themselves and taking the pressure offline into their real lives. Like tell me a little bit about why you want to write that book.
Well, once again, another one that I had to write out of necessity. So in 2018, man, it seemed like every call I was getting to come speak, man, to students was about bullying. You
Hmm.
know, for a minute, I was like, I told my homeboy, I said, hey, man, I don't want to get locked in. I don't want to get locked and boxed into being a bullying speaker, you know,
Hmm.
right? And I say that because it's a very tough subject because when I'm doing the presentation, man, I show them kids that commit suicide, you know, because they've been, and it takes the air out of the room, you know,
Hmm.
it's kind of sad. But you know, but that's what everybody wanted, man. So hey, I'm a speaker, so that's what I hit, man. And
Hmm.
so I just put the book together, man, to talk about some of those subjects, especially cyberbullying. So studies show that teenage girls 12 to 18 are the biggest bullies, man. They're bullying
Hmm.
more than anybody. Teenage girls 12 to 18. They're
Hmm.
brutal online, man. That's how most of these fights get started. And then what happens is you got students at it. Next thing you know, the parents get involved, man. School district right next to me, man. Two parents got to fighting. Knife comes out. Somebody gets cut. You know, jail time, all of
Hmm.
that. Started off a bullying situation between two girls. And so this is really serious, man, and it can get out of hand. So, man, you have to watch your teenager online, man. Watch what they're doing. Watch what they're saying, man. You're the parent.
Hmm.
Control that phone, bro. We got to control that phone. We need to see what's in that phone. What are you saying? Who are you talking to? What's going on this phone, man? These kids are bullying, man. They're making other kids commit suicide. You know, and they're doing all kind of stuff on their phone.
Hmm.
You know, it's a big problem in some schools. Some schools is not. It just depends on, you know, the location where you are. But a lot of principals say, hey, we just don't have that problem in our school. So
Got
it's
it.
not a big
Now,
problem.
because of because you're in schools a lot, something else I'm curious about. Because of social media, because how these kids have access to kind of share information between all of them at one time, which can cause a stressful situation for a young person who haven't developed certain skills yet. Do these schools have anything in place? We used to have counselors, right? But
Yeah.
is there something else that they've instituted for this type of behavior? So when a kid is bullied or going through a situation, do they bring the parents in and counsel them? Do they make sure that they don't bring the phone to school? Like, what do they have in place?
Well, they still have counselors. So they still,
Hmm.
yeah, still have counselors. Man, they're doing everything they can, man, to try
Hmm.
to monitor these situations. But it becomes too daunting of a task, man, because you got
Makes sense.
so many kids in here with phones. They're saying stuff. A lot of the bullying goes on in the text messages.
Hmm.
So it may not be as clear to catch it on if it's not on social media, but it's in the text message, and they're just passing it around the school through the text message. So that's kind of harder to catch because it's not on an open forum where everybody can
Hmm.
see.
Got
And
it.
so it's different formats, you know, where the bullying is really taking place. But I try to encourage, especially my athletes, you know, when they're in the room, I say, hey, you the big guy on campus. People look up to you. I need you to be an advocate for the underdog. I need you to step up. I always encourage them to say, I need you to use your voice because you have a powerful voice in this school. I need you to become an advocate for students that are being bullied. I need you to step up and say, you're not going to bully him. You're not going to bully her, right? Because the other kids listen to you because you're the big sports guy, right? And so I try to get them to become an advocate for those being bullied.
Definitely. That's definitely a good idea. And you know, I'm sure it's tough. Sometimes I'm not gonna lie. I look at the younger generation and I consider them soft sometimes, or I speak from a place of ignorance, not acting as if I was a young person with a smartphone and had social media, I don't know how that would have affected me, bro. You know what I mean?
We would have been cutting up too. Yeah. Man, can you imagine being 13, 14, and Instagram comes up? Man, Snapchat, man, it's crazy. I'm glad we didn't have it, man.
You know, and then then they have Netflix, then they have just the regular cable, then they have the YouTube. So their attention is being diverted in so many different places. You know what I mean? We have to kind of empathize with that for a little bit because again, we can't really understand how that feels, you know?
And then it's hard for them, just as it is for adults, it's sometimes hard for them to decipher reality from falsehood, right? And so that's why Instagram wants to take away the like button. That tells you what kind of society we live in, where Instagram literally wants to take away the like button because so many people's feelings are getting hurt because they don't have a certain amount of likes, right? Or they're not getting the amount of likes that Instagram model is getting, or, you know, so you got a lot of fractured egos, a lot of insecurities, you know, and that, just imagine that at a school with 12-year-olds, so it's magnified, right? Because into your own, you still don't know who you are. You still learn, so everything they say about you kills your spirit. You know, every time they talk about the shoes, you don't have on Jordans, you don't have this, man, I'm so tired of hearing about Jordans, man. I just don't know. I don't know what to do, man. Like the way we place our entire life's value on a pair of $100 shoes is disgusting, man. It's disgusting, man.
Yep,
you know,
it's the value system, brother.
And I tell them, I say, look, when it comes time for you to get a job, you can go get a button-down shirt from Walmart and put on a pair of $30 loafers. That man behind that desk don't care nothing about no Jordans. He want to know what you put up here when you was at school. Not just your IQ. I also teach EQ, emotional intelligence, right? So what's the level of your emotional intelligence? Do you have self-awareness? Do you have social awareness? Do you have self-management about yourself? Do you have any kind of get up about yourself? So I'm teaching all these skills wrapped into one. And so, man, we just shouldn't place all of our value, man, on shoes, man, and clothes. I mean,
it's difficult, man. I realized some time ago that especially like just black men and women, but being in our communities and being treated like as underserved people and not having things, I think at times a lot of people in our community just say, these Jordans is my symbol of success. Yeah, I may not have a lot of food at home. I don't want to really invite you to my house because the couch ain't right and it ain't smelling too good and my mom ain't nice and all these things. So these shoes is like a status symbol. And like a lot of things in our culture, it's just gotten out of hand at this point. You know what I mean? Because I've never been a lover of Jordans simply because I'm so much of an individual, though, because I didn't see the value in high school when Jordans came out. No less than 25 individuals went to get these same pair of shoes. So I'm looking at this nice shoe, but y'all all look alike. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it never really registered with me, the love for them. But you're right. I see people in our community who have the biggest level of dysfunction, like in their home environment with how they live their life, but they still got on the nice pair of shoes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's like a hurt people finding a way to kind of mend that. But in reality, a lot of us just need to go talk to a psychiatrist. A lot of us need to go sit down with an unbiased individual, and you can get an idea of what's really going on with yourself. But you talk to your cousin, you talk to your friend, they may place judgment without even trying to. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
that's even a stigma. Like, we don't look at going to a site. A lot of us have insurance, we have a job, and we have medical insurance, and we're not even sure, we're not even clear on the fact that we can go sit on the couch for free.
Yep. Yep.
That come with your insurance, you know what I mean? And you'll be surprised what you need to talk about, what you need to cry about. You know what I mean? I was just on a panel of brothers a couple days ago where it was a whole bunch of brothers and we was doing it on Zoom, but we was just talking. Like, we wasn't talking about sports, we wasn't talking about women, we was talking about being vulnerable. We was talking about what we need to do for our families. Like, sometimes we need to have real conversations as black, talk about this kind of stuff. When the last time you seen two black men get together and talk about your 2-year-old is reading now, or your 14-year-old just started a math program? Some of us do that, but not enough of us. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, man. You on it tonight, man. You making great points, man. We need to do this more.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's needed. It's needed, man. When you go into these spaces, man, I'm telling you, it'll bring your spirit down, man. To really see what we're going through, man. And like I said, students not even eating, man. You know,
That's
and
horrible, brother.
yeah, man, it is. It is, man. It's tough, man. And so we all got work to do, man. You know,
Mm-hmm.
none of us can afford to stand on the sideline. Whatever it is you do,
That's my point.
I don't care if you reach 20. If you reach, that's 20 that won't break in my house tomorrow. That's 20
There you go.
that won't rob me and kill me, right? So I don't care what religion you are. Whatever you got that cleans these young men up and get them on the right path, and so they're not breaking in, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
and that's just how I feel on that, man. We got work to do.
Yep. And I appreciate you coming on tonight, brother, because I'm being on social media and just experiencing the world where we're at now. A lot of people are relaxed with the fact that they can go online and just share stuff. They can go online, and to them, that's a form of like activism, and that's necessary to speak your truth to power. That's necessary, but everybody got to just put one foot in front of the other and help out. Because I tell black men all the time, there's nothing wrong with having a job. I believe in entrepreneurship and having your own, all this good stuff. But we in America, if you got to get a job, go get a job. Ain't nothing wrong with working for somebody as long as you know who you are. But at the end of the day, you can do something for yourself, though. Besides working, go volunteer somewhere. Write a book like you doing. Be a coach. There's a million things you can do. Some people think, because I'm always like on my black pride shit, people say, well, I don't want to do it that way. Well, look, you don't got to wear no dashiki, put your fist up. You ain't got to march. You don't got to do none of that. You can be a revolutionary by just taking care of the people around you. You can
Yes,
be a
sir.
revolutionary by seeing young people and being the best example. And I don't really like the term role model. I prefer real model, because if
Yep.
you honest and true with who you are, they can still learn something from you, even if you may not do things right all the time. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. That's good, man. We all got work to do, man. Everybody got a lane they can operate in, man. Let's get in them.
Definitely. Now, last question I have for you. Since we're dealing with a pandemic, and I just came up with this right now because you're in an environment where you're dealing with young people, like, what do you recommend? Because right now, we have to be honest with the fact that some of these young people aren't familiar or are having a tough time with the pandemic, meaning
Yeah.
distance learning. They're at home. I was reading an article that some parents is about to get their kids ADHD medicine because they're at home. And some parents, in my opinion, haven't taken the time to create the necessary structure at home. So now the kid's home all day and they don't know when homework's supposed to start or when food's supposed to be served. So what recommendation or what information would you share with a young person who is struggling with the fact that I'm not going to school right now? Like, I don't mind doing the work at home, but my friends are at school and maybe my household ain't the most comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna say, well, first let me talk to the parents. I would encourage the parents to get that student as many outlets as you can get them. Whatever that is. If you got to go down to the court, man, the weather is getting ready to be nice. Man, get that young man out, get him some air. You know, go out to the park and talk to him, and you know, and counsel him, and just ask him, how are you today?
Mm-hmm.
What's on your mind today? Do you know how many young men have never had a parent simply say, how are you today? Is
Hmm.
it anything you would like to talk to me about? You know, something
Yep.
that simple is yet so powerful. So getting outlets, I always preach mentors. The studies show, you know, the young man that gets a mentor, his level of success increases statistically. His level of graduation increases statistically. And so I'm always going to preach mentors, you know, finding the proper, you know, as you said, real models that can help guide him, even if it's not his father. Does he have an uncle? Does he have a brother, cousin, you know, pastor, somebody, a youth pastor, somebody down the street that can put in at least 10 minutes. I tell guys, they say, man, I don't have time to mentor. Do you have 10 minutes a week to reach out to a young man and ask him, how are you? What's on your mind? Are you in tour with anybody? Can I help with some conflict resolution with you and the brother down the street? Like 10 minutes a week. Every man has Oprah. I guarantee you, Oprah has 10 minutes a week. And she's probably one of the busiest people in the world. But I guarantee there's a point in her life where she sits down for 10 minutes that she could give to something or give to a cause. And so 10 minutes a week, let's do some mentoring. Let's talk to a young man. And then for the student, if you have a phone, you have a university in your hand at all times. You have a real life university. If you have a smartphone, you have a real life university. Use it for something other than social media. Let's do some research. Let's find some positive podcasts, some Les Brown, some ET, you know, some guys that's gonna give you some positive stuff. You know, first of all, man, look, listen, I'm finna get on this platform that you got going heavy, right? Because I've been seeing it, but then, you know, then I got the message. I said, man, okay, this is for fathers. This is, man, do you know how valuable fathers are?
Definitely. Yeah.
Man, the media wants to make it seem fathers are never around. All fathers are no good. You know, they're not needed in the home. A father is needed at all times.
Yep. Definitely.
At all times. He's important. He has a role to play, and a very pivotal role at that. And so that's what I would say, man, to that young student. Man, begin to use that phone for something other than Snapchat, something other than IG. Let's read some books. Learn Black history. I just put out 2 brand new ones. One called 25 Black Heroes That Changed the Course of History, where you learn about 25 Black heroes you probably never heard of, because growing up in school, I only heard about Dr. King, Rosa Parks, and I think Frederick Douglass. That was the extent of my Black education.
You're right.
From kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. I only learned about 3 Black people in history, right? And so I took it upon myself to begin teaching our students Black history. I also have 15 Black sheroes that changed the course of history. So now I'm going to introduce you to Fannie Lou Hamer, you know, out of Mississippi. I'm going to introduce you to Ella Baker. I'm gonna tell you about Mae Jemison, how she went to Stanford at 16 years of age and became an astronaut. We need to see this. We need to see these examples, so because it's hard to be what you cannot see. We need to see these examples. Magic Johnson said, I was born poor, but I never dreamed poor. If we can get you to stop dreaming poor, then we can begin to implement all these other factors and give you that foundation that you need to be successful.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, brother. I knew that you would have a lot of good information for the family. Like I said, man, it's so important that we get Black men who talk sense into our people and have the conversation, and they look normal, they look cool as any Black man you know, but they're willing to put their self in the middle of the fire. Because like I said, brother, all my people who choose to do the hard work in society, I applaud you, because you could be doing something different with your time. You could be
Yep.
doing something easier and more profitable with your time. But all the
Yep.
black men that I see who choose to go work in our community, whether it be at school, whether it be the penitentiary system or otherwise, like we was just saying, we need all hands on deck, brother. So I'm gonna keep talking about your books. I do a little business segment on my other podcast. I'm gonna bring up your books just so the parents can be aware of what you offered. I'm gonna have you back on the show again, brother. So
Okay.
O'Nae Chatman, man, I appreciate you coming on the show today and talking to everybody. Do me a favor and tell everybody where they can get your books.
Man, you can go to onaechatman.com, or all my books are on Amazon. All my books are on Amazon. If you're interested in the Black History books, you can go to payhip.com/Chapman Publishing.
Okay.
Payhip.com/Chapman Publishing, and those Black History books are there. Black History, man, we got to teach it. We got to teach
I
that,
know
man.
it. Definitely. I know it. I know it. Well, thank you again, brother, for coming on the platform. And like I said, man, Melanated Fathers TV, it's all about speaking with our people. It's all about taking the leadership position from a man's perspective and understand the importance of educating our people. Understand the importance of adding perspective to this whole conversation. Because at the end of the day, we need to realize sometime that we're a little older and we need to look at the youth as, like I said, I can be a real model for you. I can take my life and my experiences and use it to help you out, brother. And that's exactly what you've been doing. So I appreciate you, man. Again, I'm going to have you back on the platform soon. Everybody, please go to Melanated Fathers TV on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube page. You can go to Melanated Fathers TV on Facebook. You can find all of the content there. The Melanated Fathers 100 is the Instagram page. Thank you again for tuning into another interview here at the Melanated TV, the Melanated Fathers TV YouTube page, man. You guys have a good day. All right, brother. Thank you, man.
All right.